And I gotta be honest, I hope that what I've shared with you so far, at the very least, has been somewhat helpful. Is something you'll be able to apply and to use. Oh no, I wasn't pandering for that. All right, I guess, go ahead. No, I'm just kidding. What I was about to say is what I've shared so far I sure hope is helpful, but I actually think this piece right here, the process piece, might be the most important thing I'm gonna share with you all day. So if you haven't been listening, you might wanna go ahead and dial in. And that is refocusing the lens on the process. I am a huge believer in focusing on the process to increase the chance that we get the results that we're looking for. And the best way I can describe the process, if any of you were ever tasked with building a brick wall, don't focus so much on the wall. Focus on the bricks. See, if you can take each and every brick and lay each and every brick with care and precision and put each and every brick exactly where it needs to go, guess what? The wall takes care of itself. You don't have to focus on the wall. The power's in the bricks. The juice is in the bricks. So if each and every one of you has aspirations to sell X number of homes in 2025, if I do my job now, I'm going to convince you to dial into the process of what will allow that to happen. But before I do that, I want to give you a couple examples. The first is from the sports world, since that's the world that I spent most of my career. The best group that I've ever seen dial into the process was the Queens University men's basketball team. Queens University down in Charlotte, North Carolina, recently moved to Division I, but when I had a chance to work with them and their then head coach, Bart Lundy, they were one of the top programs in Division II in the United States. Phenomenal program, and Bart Lundy is one of the best coaches that I've ever been around. And Coach Lundy figured out, after watching a decade's worth of film, that there were 4 key statistics that heavily dictated if Queens would win the basketball game. And for a little bit of context, sports and basketball, for that matter, are what Simon Sinek calls a finite game. There's a definitive start, there's a definitive stop, and every person around the globe has unanimously agreed that the team with the most points on the scoreboard when the final buzzer goes off is declared the winner. It's not arbitrary. Business and real estate is what's called an infinite game. It's a little more esoteric, a little more evergreen. It's not as clear cut. However, this example and this analogy still applies. So Coach Lundy figured out that there were 4 key statistics that heavily dictated if Queens would have the most points on the scoreboard when the final buzzer went off. For those of you that follow basketball, these will be blatantly obvious. For those of you that don't, I'll do the best I can to drop some breadcrumbs and make them blatantly obvious. The first is turnover differential. If we can have more possessions than our opponent, it gives us a better chance to win. The second was offensive rebound differential. If we can take more shots than our opponent, it gives us a better chance to win. Third were free throws attempted. The free throw based on each possession is the highest percentage shot in the game of college basketball. And if we can take more of those than our opponent, it gives us the better chance to win. And fourth were three-pointers attempted. The three-pointer is a massive weapon in college basketball. And if we can take more threes, clean looks from 3 than our opponent, it gives us a better chance to win. When Queens University came out on top in those 4 statistical categories, they won 97% of their games. I'm gonna say that again because I don't think y'all think that's as cool as I do. When they came out on top just in those 4 statistical categories, they won 97% of their games, which means statistically and mathematically, they were almost unbeatable when they just did those 4 things. So now I'm going to ask you high performers a series of rhetorical questions. What do you think Coach Lundy and his staff talked about, emphasized, and reiterated every workout, every practice, every film session, and every game? Those 4 things. What do you think Coach Lundy and his staff used to design every practice plan, every workout plan, every film breakdown, and every game plan? Those 4 things. Coach Lundy and his staff never talked about winning, never talked about banners, never talked about trophies, never talked about championships. All they talked about were those 4 things. You know why? If his team could execute those 4 things, the winning, the championships, the trophies, and the banners would all take care of themselves. See, when you focus on the process, the scoreboard takes care of itself. And here's another example, more in the business world. A good friend of mine, a fellow keynote speaker, before he got into the speaking game, he owned a very successful pool installation business. He sold pools for a living. And he was a self-admitted data nerd. He loved looking at the back-end analytics on his website, on his blog, and on his social channels. He liked to measure what was working. And here's what he found out. When a prospective customer, someone that was in the market to buy a pool, viewed 30 or more pages of his content, articles, blogs, videos, social posts, if they viewed 30 or more pieces of content, they purchased the pool 80% of the time. If they viewed less than 30 pages of content, they purchased the pool 25% of the time. Now, we all know the outcome he was looking for. He's trying to sell pools, but he didn't focus on selling pools. What did he focus on? Putting out a steady stream of captivating, compelling, educational content, because if he did that consistently, the pools would just sell themselves. Focus on the process and you'll get the outcomes that you want. So let's bring it full circle. Let's take it a little bit closer to your world. And I've got to speak in somewhat generalities because I know we've got somewhat of a mixed group here. And as I said, I've got a couple dozen friends that are in the real estate game, and this is what they've all shared with me. Obviously, the goal is to sell homes. And let's just say that you have the goal, and this could vary. It could be 25 homes in 2025. Maybe it's 40, maybe it's 50, maybe it's 100. But I want you to get crystal clear on the goal that you're going for in 2025. That's the mountaintop. But then I want you to start at the base. And I want you to figure out what are the measurable KPIs, the key performance indicators, that if you meet these consistently, the only natural result is to sell homes. Now, on some level, at the base of that mountain has to be awareness. People in your community have to be aware of you. Preferably, they know, they like, and they trust you, but they have to be aware of what it is that you do. And how do we do that? We network, we prospect, we put content out on social, we ask for referrals. So that's the baseline. That's just the ante just to sit at the table. But the base, the number one thing that I want you guys to start thinking about measuring are meaningful conversations with qualified prospects. That's something that you can absolutely measure. Meaningful conversations with qualified prospects. If you do those right, most of those will lead to appointments set. Hopefully most appointments set will lead to appointments met. Hopefully most appointment met will lead to offers and contracts, which ultimately yields a home sale. But I don't want you guys focused on the sale. I want you focused on the conversations. Now, every single person in here has a different set of skills. You're in a different area. That's the fun part of the real estate game. But let's just say, for example, it takes you 500 meaningful conversations to sell 50 homes. That's about a 10% conversion rate. That'd actually be world class. I mean, world class. And 500 meaningful conversations might sound like a lot, right? It's really not. 500 meaningful conversations is 2 a day, 5 days a week, 50 weeks out of the year. 2 meaningful conversations a day, 5 days a week, 50 weeks out of the year. So at the end of the day, I don't want you measuring your success on whether or not you sold a home. I want you measuring your success on whether or not you had 2 meaningful conversations. If you did, that day is a win. You're sticking to the process. And then guess what you got to do? Then it's just a matter of stacking days. Then it's just a matter of stacking days. And that is the hard part about the real estate game, because there is no guarantee. You can obviously go weeks and months without making a sale. But I want to encourage you to weather those tough times, to have the patience, the consistency, and the confidence to continue to have meaningful conversations with qualified prospects. Because if you stack those days, you are focusing on the process. And that will greatly increase the chance that you hit the goal that you're looking for.